Welcome to Sewing Thursday with T. I am, of course, T, and you may recognize me from my sewing blog, Sewing by T, or my fabric shop, Simply by T. But whether you're seeing me for the first time or if you're joining me yet again, I want to welcome you. We are, of course, going to talk about some fun stuff today. We've got some tips with elastic. I've got a review for a rotary blade sharpener. So as you're hopping on, if you could hit like for me and then just comment saying, hi, T, even if you're not watching live, because that makes a difference for the Facebook algorithms. So, and we're not just talking about elastic and the review of the rotary blade sharpener. We are also talking about our new glitter French terry, which I know everybody is excited about. Hello, Karen. Welcome for joining me yet again. Ooh, sorry about that. So today we are talking about elastic again. So last week we talked about where I get my elastic. Today we're going to talk about some tips. So let's go ahead and get started. There are a lot of different ways to do an elastic casing, and I don't want to get ahead of myself. So, oh, thanks, Karen. Yes, I did get my hair cut. Isn't it so cute? I love it. Oh, welcome, Leslie. So we are talking about elastic. So first up, when we're talking about elastic, we need to talk about how we're joining our ends. So you have two options. You have, let's get this focused here. You have, maybe if I turn it this way, the nice bright stitching. You have the butted method where you butt the two ends together. And then you have, turn it this way so you can see, the box stitch option. So there are advantages to both of these options. The box stitch is going to be the most secure, which is awesome, right? Like we want it to be really secure. And normally you would put an X. There we go. Normally you'd put an X inside the box, but I didn't put an X because this is just a sample piece. So this is really, really secure, but it makes a little bump in the back, and sometimes that's really annoying. Sometimes it doesn't matter, and that's great, but sometimes it's really annoying. Thank you. I probably should have done photos for you guys sooner so that everybody didn't pop on and tell me that they love my hair. But yes, I got my hair cut again. All right, stop distracting me about my hair. So the butted method. The butted method is when you just butt the two ends together and you zigzag over the edge. This is really great because it's nice and flat at the join. However, it also acts kind of weird at this, and this ends up being a weak spot. So, Kevin, stop goofing around. You're going to mess me up. So that can be annoying to have this weak spot in your elastic join. So there's a couple things to consider if you're going to use that butted method. So what I did was I took this just little sample piece of elastic, and all I did was I pulled on the end for a few minutes, and I just did this over and over. And once we can get the camera to focus, not on my hand, but on the piece of elastic, and you can see how the little threads are starting to come out, and that is like really super annoying. And while it's not a huge deal, if you really need your project to last for a long time and you don't want that elastic to start pulling apart, the solution is a box of matches. You're probably thinking, whoa, why are we using matches? Oh my God, if people would just stop telling me they love my hair. Oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed now, guys. Stop with the hair. Yes, my hair is great. Thank you. Welcome, Melissa. So anyway, if you're worried about the edges of your elastic fraying, and that's more of an issue if you're butting them, take a match, light it, and singe those edges. Elastic generally is either made with rubber, so that will singe that edge and you will be completely set. I did the same amount of pulling to this other side, so let's see if we can get the camera to focus. You can see how this side here is fairly smooth, even though I pulled on it, and this side over here is all like chopped up. And it's going to continue to shred. Now, like I said, if you need this project to last like a year maybe, then you're totally good and don't worry about it. But if you're really looking for longevity like myself, where my first kid's going to wear it, and then the second kid, and then the third kid, and then we're going to pass it on to family members, then cinching this edge takes like 2 seconds, and it makes sure that that doesn't start to pull apart. Like I said, it's not like a huge deal, but it's one of those little things that you can think about. So next, so we talked about butting them. Next, casings. I generally don't use casings, but you need to see this because it's really important. So your project calls for a casing, and you sew the casing, but you don't do an edge stitch. Have you ever had your elastic twist like this? And if you ever have, it's really annoying, and it almost always happens on my back, and it pokes me, and I feel like I'm pulling it and pulling it and pulling it, and it doesn't straighten itself out in that casing. And so then you're like fiddling with it, and you have to like smooth it out. But the next time it goes through the wash, it may like twist itself in again. So it's like one extra step. All you need is an edge stitch. Let's see which side's going to be easier to see. I think this white side is going to be easier. So edge stitching. Now I did not edge stitch this. I just ran a quick stitch. This is probably like 3/8 inch. But you'll stitch really close to this edge. And that way when it twists like that, all you have to do is pull it and it will even itself back out in that casing. So anytime you're doing a casing, make sure that you do that edge stitch because it's going to keep your elastic from twisting. And if the elastic does twist, it's going to untwist itself very quickly. So always edge stitch. But I hate casings. Like I hate them with a passion because you have to edge stitch, and then you also have to fold up the little edge and get it all tacked and even. Then you have to thread the elastic through. So when should you use a casing? You should use a casing if you need to be able to adjust the size of the elastic. So if you're sewing for someone who may need you to like tighten up the elastic or pull the elastic out and put in larger elastic, you definitely want to do a casing. But if you're sewing like myself for either yourself or your children where they're right there and you can measure them and be sure the elastic is exactly perfect, then you're going to want to sew the elastic straight into the edge. So what I actually do is I quarter the elastic, I pin it to the edge, and I serge it on. The elastic is never going to come off. It's always going to be exactly there for you, exactly the size you set it up as, and it's never going to twist. It can't twist because it's attached to the fabric. No twisting. All you have to do then is you turn it, top stitch it, and you are done. Now you can even skip a step if you are very precise, or you have an elastic insertion foot for your cover stitch machine. You can attach the elastic to the fabric and top stitch it all at one time. Yes, Lori, I know you're here for the sparkles, and I will get to those fairly quickly. I'm trying to move pretty fast, so we do have time for the sparkles. So I far prefer sewing the elastic into the seam, but only if you are never going to have to change the elastic. So this is great if you're sewing for an adult or you're sewing for a kid that you are absolutely sure what their measurements are. If your kid grows out, then up, out, then up, this is not the method for you. My kids just keep growing up, and I swear they have the same waist size they've had since like they were 3 years old. So they just keep getting taller, they don't get wider. So this method works really well for us. Okay, so last week I was really excited because I went online and I ordered a bunch of stuff on Amazon. And I know Kevin's here, so he's probably going, really, that's where all those boxes came from. But I was thinking to myself, I go through a lot of rotary blades, right? And I'm sure that if you use a rotary cutter, you go through a lot of rotary blades. And I have my 28, my 45, and I feel like I'm always throwing away blades. So I bought 2 different rotary blade sharpeners. One in the $20 range and one in the $50 range. I have not had a chance to try out the $50 one, but I did try out the $20 one. And I have to give it kind of mixed reviews. So when I used it with my 28, it kind of sharpened it, so they were a little bit better than they were. It is a little bit finicky to use, and you're not supposed to hold on to it, which means that whatever surface you put it on has to be really stable, but I feel like the little rubber feet don't make it that stable. So then you want to put your hand there, but they tell you not to put your hand there, of course, because they don't want you to chop your fingers off. So for that reason, it didn't do so well. But when I went and sharpened my 45s, it dulled my blade completely. So then at that point, my blade was completely useless. Now, I read the directions several times. I tried several different ways to get it to sharpen, and it didn't work. So this method, no, don't bother with this one. I did buy an electric one, which is just an upgrade from the one that you just twist to sharpen. I do believe my friend Katie Lee has one, and she said it works fairly well. So I haven't tried it yet, but I am going to try it. I haven't gotten as much sewing this week as I wanted. Now, there was one thing that I didn't include in the little intro, and that was how to properly, let me put this in quotation marks, properly sew a pair of pajama pants. So I am in like a million Facebook sewing groups, but one of them is for sergers, and they were discussing, some rather heatedly, whether you can make a pair of pajama pants completely with a serger. So can you do it? Yes, you absolutely can. There are no sewing police. Nobody's going to show up to your house and say, you can't do that, because you can. And it's completely up to you. But here's some things to consider. Number one, if you're going to be completing it completely with a serger, a 5-thread safety stitch is going to be more secure than a 4-thread. That's not a big deal, but something to consider. But most importantly, and this has been my personal experience, I'm not telling you what you can or can't do because I don't believe in proper. But these are not pajama pants, these are my daughter's pants though. I always go back over, if I'm doing everything really quickly with the serger, go back over your crotch seam with a regular sewing machine. This is where there's going to be the most stress, right here. And this is where you're most likely to pop a bunch of seams. Especially if you're working with something lightweight like flannel. Flannel tends to shred, especially cheap flannel. If you're buying like really high-end flannel, you're probably okay. But if you're using cheaper flannel, make sure you go over those crotch seams at least once, if not twice, to make sure that you're reinforcing that seam, and that'll make sure that they don't come apart. So can you sew pajama pants complete with the serger? Absolutely. Should you reinforce that crotch seam? Always, and that applies to all pants. It applies to your leggings. It applies to pajama pants. It applies to your jeans. There's a reason why on really good quality jeans, they go in and top stitch all of that. It is because they need that reinforcement so you don't pop the crotch seams. So that's all the stuff that I had planned to talk about today, except for our French Terry glitter sparkles. So these are 210 GSM, so they're heavier weight than our solid French Terry. They are way heavier weight than our baby French Terry. They are 87 polyester, 10 rayon, 3 spandex, and they are fabulous. So this is our glitter French Terry, and I don't think it's picking up the color very well. It's a very mauvey, pinky color. Lori, I know you are going to love these sparkles. They are not scratchy, so here I just rub it on my face, and that it's so smooth. And even though I'm like rubbing this, it is not creating a glitter bomb. Welcome, Aline. Welcome, Susan. We have gotten just about to the end, and we are talking about the new fabric that's going to hit the shop tomorrow. So this is our glitter French Terry. So this is fabulous. Melissa, I'm sorry that you're struggling to get your comments to go through. I haven't seen anything besides the first time. So it comes in this really beautiful soft pink. And Of course, we've got white, which is a little bit hard to catch the sparkle on it, but they all have sparkle. This really soft gray color. I love this. Then we've got navy, and navy is really striking. You can see how glittery it is and how gorgeous that looks. So the navy is really, really pretty. Olive and black. So let me see if I can kind of hold these all up for you. So these are really nice and soft. The glitter is not scratchy, which I thought was really important because no matter how much I love sparkle, I don't like to get scratched when I'm wearing it. And gray. I'm not going to hold up the white only because it doesn't show well. There we go. That's a really good impression of that pink color. It's like a really soft, rosy. I love how sparkly the blue looks. And these, because of their heavier weight, they're going to be great for joggers. They are going to, but they are not so heavy that you can't use them on like a raglan. So I can, like, I've got so many ideas. And let me go ahead and cover stretch for you here. So this is vertical, and it has some stretch. So it doesn't have a lot of vertical stretch, but we do have a good amount of horizontal. And because of that spandex, it is bouncing back perfectly. So I am really excited to get this in the shop. Pricing is going to be a little bit higher than our solid, but I think that's what you get for something special. Excuse me. Melissa's asking if I would use them in a dress, and I would say something like the Hey June Charleston would be amazing. Oh my gosh, now I've got like all these ideas. So yes, they do have enough stretch to use in a dress. Anything that would be okay with like a stable fabric. Maybe not stretchy enough for a wiggle dress unless you size up a little bit, just because there's not this like not quite as much stretch. But yeah, I just love this one. And I just love it so much. It is so pretty. It is pretty in person. It is pretty for the camera. I love it. So sorry, I get a little excited about glitter and pretty fabrics. Like glitter and pretty fabrics. It's the only two things I need in my life. So and then here again is the gray. Like I said, the white isn't as striking. So if we don't get a lot of pre-order for the white, I might not order the white. But the other colors are super fabulous. And I'm hoping to have these in the shop at the exact same time that the baby French terry comes in. So it's going to be a really huge cutting day, but we will get everything out to you guys on time. And if anybody has questions, when will it arrive? So Lori, I am looking at probably December 29th for everything to make it to the shop. And that requires me having everything decided by the 22nd, which is just next week. So that's a little bit scary. So we have until next week to decide which ones are going to come into the shop. So that's about a week to get your pre-orders in to make sure that I purchase the color that you want. So if you're really wanting the white, and I'm going to get photos of these. So if you really want the white, make sure that you order the white, because any color that doesn't have any pre-order on it by next Friday, I'm not going to order at all. And we can always revisit it later, but I need to make sure that the fabrics that are hitting the shop are ones that we're going to be using. I am trying to remember pricing. I think these are going to go at $6 a yard on pre-order, and we can reorder. So if we run out, I'll just order another roll. But I'm really, really excited about these. My daughters are super excited about these. I just ordered pants. I know, shame on me. I ordered pants for my daughter from Kohl's, and it had a very, very similar, like, I shouldn't call them pants. They're joggers. But it had a very similar glitter French terry. So she's excited that when these get in the shop, I will make her another pair and not be lazy and keep buying her pants. But I'm excited because I can have glitter pants too. So does anybody have any other questions? Because it did go a little bit over time today. Anybody? I want to make sure that if anybody has a question about anything else, anything I talked about, elastic related stuff, like I said, these should hit the shop December 29th. So you have until the 29th to place your order at the pre-order rate. However, if I'll answer your question in just a second. If I don't have pre-orders for color by next Friday, I'm not going to purchase that color. So Melissa's asking, how does the weight compare to the regular French Terry? This is a little bit heavier. So if I remember correctly, the French Terry in the shop is 190 GSM, and this is 210. So it's a little heavier. That said, the feel of it doesn't feel heavy. So it's not like a heavy weight. And I do have an option for a heavy weight French Terry, which we will visit in January. But to get through this next round of fabric orders, I didn't want too much stuff on pre-order. And I was going to postpone the sparkles. And Kevin wanted me to postpone sparkles, but I told him I couldn't do it. I needed the sparkles in my life. So these sparkles are a little heavier, but not heavy. I'm not sure if that makes sense. So they're a little heavier than our French Terry, but not super heavy. And I feel like I'm rambling. So unless anybody has another question, I am going to go ahead and sign off. I'm going to give you guys a second because I know it takes a second or two to type, and then it actually has to make it to me. I know, Lori, that's what I told Kevin. I said, I need sparkles. And he said, but you're getting baby French Terry. And I was like, but I need sparkles. You want me to live without sparkles? And so he said okay to the sparkles, but it was kind of a reluctant okay. So let's make sure that we get our pre-orders in so that I can justify the sparkles and he doesn't give me a hard time next time when I say we need something. So thank you everybody for joining me. Make sure that if you haven't already, you hit like. Please share this video with anyone you think that may really enjoy it. I imagine that you have at least a few sewing friends, and if not, there are plenty of sewing groups out there who might be interested. So thank you for joining me, Karen. Yes, we do love our baby French Terry too, and that will be hitting the shop at the same time. So you have the option of purchasing two different kinds of pre-orders, the baby French Terry and the sparkle French Terry. The sparkle French Terry should go up in the shop either late tonight or tomorrow morning, and it'll also go out in the newsletter. So in case you forget, it's going to be there reminding you. If you haven't signed up for the newsletter, you can find that either on the Simply by T Facebook page. There's an option on the left sidebar that says email sign up, or on our shop page, http://simplybyt.com. Thanks for joining me.